I hope my stream does all right. We are having some monsoon downpours here in Mexico. And yeah, the Starlink, I love my Starlink. I really, really do. Generally speaking, it is really, really amazing, except in heavy, heavy rains. When we get those, if you guys have ever been to Mexico and seen one of those like 5 minute downpours, that is what we get. It's just like someone just opens the clouds like dumping a bucket. It's just like, whew. And the Starlink does tend to cut out when that happens. So I apologize if we get cut off. Hopefully it lasts. I might keep this a little bit shorter than normal because of that. And then hopefully next week will be better. So, what I want to talk about today is the importance of writing stuff down. Uh, I love the brain dumping. A lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety is just caused by that hamster wheel of thoughts, right? We're continuously going over things and trying to, basically we're just trying to remember. We're trying to remember everything, right? So I'm sure you guys, if you're watching this, if you have stress, anxiety, if you have that overwhelm, you have these sorts of issues, I have no doubt that you also wake up in the middle of the night or take 1, 2, 3 hours just to fall asleep. That's what I used to do. I used to average about 4 hours of sleep a night. It would take me probably an hour to fall asleep. And then I would wake up somewhere 2, 3 o'clock and maybe get back to sleep, maybe not. So, and if I got back to sleep, it took another hour or 2 hours to get that to happen. But that's because if you think about those times when you're trying to fall asleep or fall back asleep, we can't shut our minds off. That's our problem. You will hear everyone said, you've probably said it a ton, I just can't shut my mind off. Then we start taking melatonin, we start taking all these things, but those are band aids for the problem, right? We're trying to force ourselves to sleep. But the problem is, we can't turn this off. So let's deal with the problem, right? I know for myself, once I got my stress and anxiety under control, I got rid of that overwhelm. I fall asleep quite easily now. Actually, a lot of times I'll go to bed and I want to read for 20 minutes. I love reading in bed. It's just I love it. I love reading, period. I'm a huge bookworm. Um, but I like to read for at least 20 minutes. And I've had times where I lay in bed and I, get through 2 pages only and I'm just falling asleep, right? And unless something wakes me up in the middle of the night, I don't wake up anymore. I actually sleep the whole night because I've turned this off. I know how to turn it off. I've dealt with the problem. So, like, literally, I've been there, I've done that, this works. That's why I'm sharing it with all of you guys because, I mean, overwhelm is bad enough. The stress, the constant anxiety, these are all kind of terrible things. Terrible may be a bit of a strong word, but they're really hard to live with every day, and our lives are ruled by it. And then you add lack of sleep. And all those symptoms that overwhelm, like the stress can cause, the brain fog, the fatigue, the memory loss, when we're walking into the room 4 times and we keep forgetting why we went in there, that's just tenfold because we're not sleeping. And then we add all of these, physical ailments because our bodies are not rejuvenating. Like literally, that's why we sleep, is so our bodies can heal at night. And we're taking that away from ourselves. So now we're not getting our proper healing. So now we're causing physical damage as well as mental and emotional, right? So it really is. And then of course now we're in that really awesome feedback loop of our stress is robbing us of our sleep, which is just enhancing all the stress, which is robbing the sleep, which is enhancing, right? Like it's just it really is quite terrible. So that's why, like, one of the things I will always say, number one, the best way to start is honestly start getting rid of that anxiety, start controlling that with that question. Um, where did I have? I've done a few videos on anxiety now, to be honest. I actually did a couple of actual videos I uploaded, so you can check out my videos. And then the episode I did on anxiety, let me find this here. Focused attention. Oh, I know I did one. Where are you? Episode 4. Can you fix it? Um, that's the big one. And literally that one simple question with the follow-up question of how. When you have that question and then the follow-up, all your anxiety that deals literally with all anxiety, um, pending like if there's a phobia or something where like I will always be terrified of flying, I think, so that's just something I have to deal with. But again, at least that helps me work through that problem. But your day-to-day, your everyday anxieties of creating 14 different scenarios that we create, 20 different scenarios for, and at the end of the day you have 200 contingency plans and scenarios planned out for this one event that you've created that has a almost 0% chance of ever happening. And then how many scenarios do we create? And then how many, like, do you see how this just evolves into this massive like that? And then that's all we do all day. Think of the worst case scenarios. How do we plan for it? Let's plan for the worst case scenarios of the plan. Like, it's too much. It's just way too much. So that's where, guys, dealing with your anxiety is definitely one of the first places I would recommend starting. But on top of that, this is really awesome. Brain dumping, writing it down, getting it out of here. Part of the problem is our minds are trying to remember everything. We're literally just trying to keep track. It's that control issue. I talked about, I think I did that last week, where, trying to let go. I've done a few different ones on letting go also. Being super controlling, being in control is our coping mechanism for the stress, the anxiety. It's how we cope with the overwhelm because we're so overwhelmed. There's so much chaos. How do we deal with that? By trying to micromanage and control all of it. We're just trying to get the chaos under control. That's all we're doing. The problem is we don't actually end up controlling any of the chaos. We just end up micromanaging our lives and everybody else who's in our lives. So that's kind of where the problem comes in. So with everything going on up here, trying to remember everything, trying to control everything, kind of trying to keep track of everything, that's our hamster wheel. That's our monkey brain, right? So we need to write it all down. And this is where I know for myself, even not so much now. I do actually have in my bedroom, I do have a pencil and paper where I can jot stuff down. But I used to have literally pens and scrap pieces of paper in every single room of my house. Every bedroom had it. Downstairs, I had it over there in the rec room. I had one in the laundry room, and then I had one, like, literally, I had pens and scrap paper literally everywhere. So at any point in time, something pops in there that I know I'm going to try and remember. I can write it down. I write it down, I put it in my pocket, and then it's safe. And then later I'm going to take it out. I'm going to write it on whatever appropriate list I need to put it on and continue from there. And what it does is it allows our minds to let go of that thought, where we can actually see, okay, it's safe, it's written down. And in the beginning, I actually had to go back, reread my list, like read it over and literally talk to myself and say, okay, brain, it's on the list. You can stop thinking about it. It's fine. And then hopefully you don't have to do that. Hopefully your mind is better at letting it go. But over time, all of a sudden I didn't feel that need to remember. And when I say over time, I mean like days to weeks at most, right? It's just that reinforcing, it's written down, it's safe. I do not need to continue this, right? And then our minds are like, okay, I get it. It's safe. So write it down, even reread it if you have to. It's safe. It's written down. We're okay. and then we can let it go. And it really does work. It's really funny. I had a client, and I love her because she's not a naysayer, but she doubts. Like, oh, I don't think this is gonna work. And I can see it in her face, even when she doesn't tell me. I can see it in her face. But I love it because she keeps proving that these tools work. So I tell her, you need to brain dump. And she was really resistant. I messaged her a day, 2 days later, hey, how's the brain dumping? She's like, oh, I'm getting around to it. Oh, I'm kind of doing it. I'll get there. And then finally she does. She actually just verbal diarrhea is all over the paper, gets it all out there, everything in there. She's writing it down somewhere. And finally she comes back. She's like, okay, you're right. Yeah, it actually really does help. Like, you're right. And she was so reluctant to admit this. Oh, I still laugh. I just think it's such a great story because it's like she didn't want it to be true, right? It's that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but that we all want there to be a reason we're like this. It's not our fault because, no, if it were that simple, I would have already done it. No, it can't possibly be that, easy. All these things, because it's that side note of, well, then why have I been living like this for years or decades, right? But it doesn't matter. Why didn't we think about it? Because we couldn't. Because our minds are full. Like, oh my goodness, we can't even sleep. Like, we're going to think of new ways to try and reduce all this nonsense and chaos, right? Like, of course. And how many times, when we're in that overwhelm, when we're struggling, we're just trying to, get this stuff under control. How many times does someone say something to you for whatever problem might be out there, and you're like, oh, yeah, I should have thought of that. Why didn't I think of that? Because we can't. When we're in that overwhelm, we literally cannot think properly. And that's part of the, when I talk about people's work, especially if you're the business owners, you're starting up, whatever it might be, you're really trying to, the solopreneur, entrepreneur, business owner, whatever you want to call it. There's so much, and we're just trying to get everything going and all these things. But it's the ineffective, I guess that's the best way to put it, ineffective thinking we have because we literally can't. And that's when I tell people, like, the best way to help your business is to help yourself. Get all this stuff under control, organize your thoughts, like, get rid of the chaos, and your mind is going to actually work. You're going to be productive. Even if you don't, have any other business tools or any other idea making things, like if you just literally do nothing but get rid of the overwhelm, calm down the stress, get rid of the anxiety, that in itself, your business is going to start achieving more and growing because your mind is able to think properly again. It's able to work. You're going to be more productive just for the fact that you're able to be. Like, it really is. Again, it sounds so simple, but it is that simple. And again, not to say that just, we can't just Harry Potter, snap the finger, and all our overwhelm is gone and all our stress is gone. Like, no, we actually have to do the things like brain dump, write it down, alleviate that stress off of our minds. We have to do all these things, right? So that's where, it really is that simple. I know some people are just, and I've heard this from clients, it can't be that easy. I'm like, well, I'm not saying it's easy, but it is that simple. And they're like, no, that's too simple. But that's literally it. And I think, you know what? I can't remember who it was, if it was Rockefeller or, no, it wasn't Rockefeller. One of those guys, you see those memes on Facebook or whatever, and they have a quote, and he's some big guru from hundreds of years ago or something. But he had said something like the most efficient way or the best way is just to keep it simple. And that really is true. All of these things, all of the tools, all the things that have helped me with my stress, my anxiety, getting rid of my overwhelm, they're very, very simple things. Implementing them may or may not take a little bit more effort depending where you are, what type of person you are, how stubborn you are. Oh boy, I was stubborn. But they really are truly very simple things anybody can do. That's the beauty of it, that it is that simple. So that's another thing, guys. If you're not, or if you've already started getting the anxiety under control, like I said, I think that's the best place to start. That's where I start all of my clients. And then the next place we go is this brain dumping. Because once you get everything on paper, it's out of here. You give your mind permission to let it go. You give your mind, essentially, you give your mind permission to relax, to stop needing, because it thinks it needs to. This is, again, it's part of that keeping us safe. I need to remember everything for you. I need to do these things for you. It'll help keep us safe. I need to, and then we can write it all down and be like, no, we don't need to anything. It is safe. It's right here on the paper. I'm reading it right now. It's very safe. We are safe. And let it go. Like I said, just like my lovely client who doubts, I'm going to say a lot of the things I tell her, she proves that they work every time. I love her for it, because it just really solidifies and instills these things work. So guys, yeah, brain dump it, get it out on paper. From there, you can organize, get your life under control, make your lists, make your schedules. What's my episode? I've done a video on focused attention, and episode 6 was focused attention. You focus attention using that schedule and stuff gets done. It is amazing, guys, the transition you can make just doing those few little things. It is, yeah, like for some of my clients, I have a 5-day mini program. It's perfectly free. It's just basically the first couple of sessions I would do in my one-on-one program, that's my mini program, like just to get you started. And I have clients that have just done my free mini program. And because they're so committed and they're very type A, and they took it and ran with it. And they didn't actually need my paid services afterwards, because it really does work. Once you use it and implement it, it's amazing. And the transition some of them have had just from my free program, which is, again, the anxiety, the brain dumping, the list and schedules organizing, that focused attention. And then I work on positivity and gratitude, which I have all the videos here for you guys. So really, I mean, yeah, you can make a lot of change just with these few things. So, guys, I hope that's helped. I hope if you're like my client and you're like, no, that seems pretty stupid, that can't possibly work, there's no way it's that simple, give it a go. Seriously. And maybe it takes you a couple of days. I know for her, it took her almost a week to really get it all down. And maybe part of that was because she was super resistant. She didn't want to. So she wasn't making the time to just do it. It took me about 2 days, really, to get everything dumped out. And that's like after work, in between clients. Back then, my schedule, I was the massage therapist working like sun up to sundown type thing. So I would scoot into the kitchen in between clients and jot a few more things down here and there. And that only took me about 2 days. So it's not as time consuming as you think. If you've got a spare, even half an hour, you're going to get most of this done, right? If not all of it. So yeah, guys, again, I hope this resonates. I hope you, even if you're, no, it can't be that simple, give it a try. Even if you have to, like if you're like me and you have to like read it over and be like, listen, mind, it is safe, it is here, it is fine. And then allow it to let go. And that's also for sleeping. Make sure to have the pen and paper beside your bed, on your nightstand, or like somewhere easy grasp. Even I don't want to say the voice notes on the phone, because you might wake up your partner or your kids or whoever's in the room with you. That's why I love the paper pencil. But have something there, so when you can't fall asleep because something, You keep going over, you can reach over, jot it all down, give it a read and be like, okay, it's safe. I see it. We're letting it go. And then when you roll over, you might have to say a couple more times, I don't have to think about this. It's safe. It's written right there. That always helped me fall asleep. And then again, if you wake up in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, grab that paper, write it down, alleviate that stress off of your mind. Okay, it really does help. So I hope this has been a good little tidbits for you guys. I hope you give it a try. Literally, I know even just this past week, I have in one of my friends. She has a weekly support for her business. She coaches other business owners. Anyway, so I go in every couple of weeks and I do help them with their stress and anxiety, give them little tidbits and stuff like that. And I tell you, it was so funny because there was something I really wanted to talk about, but I was in the middle of eating breakfast when I thought of it and I didn't write it down. So sure enough, I forgot it. And I was joking and I was laughing. And I'm like, see guys, you have to write it down. You have to write it down. Always write it down. When it comes into your mind, write it down. And I will say, I also kind of blame that on I've allowed my mind to let go of so many things that it naturally just lets them go, which is beautiful and great. And I love it. But this is why we need to write it down. Because the last thing we want is to be like, okay, let's constantly think of this until later. Let's remember. That's how that starts. That circle, that monkey brain, that hamster wheel. And we definitely don't want that. So just my opinion, you can disagree with me, but I would much prefer I forget things because I haven't written them down than start this again and have sleepless nights and start my circuit and my going crazy all over again. Like, no, thank you. So I know some of you, no, we don't want to go there, guys. That causes the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm. That's how we escalate. So just write it down, have the pen, paper, make the voice notes if you have to. Me, I was too, I love my food and I wouldn't put down my breakfast. So that's on me. I am fully responsible. I own that. And I laughed about it and we're good. And I'm sure if memory serves me, whatever I want to talk about did pop into my head eventually anyways. So we were good because that's usually how it happens. And it's only an idea. It's not the end of the world. You can write it down and talk about it next time. It is no big deal. No big deal. And the best part is, even if I didn't remember what I want to say, I'm going to be back. And what's done is done. Once that meeting ends, if I didn't remember, who cares? The meeting's over. It's already done. I'm not going to, call people back up and tell them, I'll write it down. I'll do it next time. And this is where we need to remember to leave the past in the past. It's already done. It's over. It's okay. Do we want to move forward? Do we want to, write it down, deal with it later? Or maybe it's just done and we need to let it go. Little food for thought. I know as I've done a couple videos and I struggle with myself still to this day with control issues, I will say, I say let it go. I understand it's not always the easiest. I've been doing a lot of meditations on this to help myself because that is I think our biggest issue as overwhelmed people or recovering overwhelmists or whatever you want to call our post overwhelm lives. Letting go of control is one of the hardest I find. So have a little grace with yourself, be easy on yourself. The control, it's like an addiction. It really is really the toughest habit to break. So one step at a time, just remember and always reward yourself for achieving these things. You do something good, reward yourself. That little toddler brain in the back of our minds loves being rewarded just like a toddler. So as long as we keep it going, we keep it happy, it wants to keep doing the things. So always reward yourself. And everyone, have a wonderful weekend. Get your self-care in there. Be grateful. Think of the positives and write it down. Write it all down. Get it out of there. Allow your mind to relax so you can relax. Write it down. All right, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And again, feel free, please, I never say this enough, subscribe, push the buttons, push the likes, give me a comment, give me something, anything. I am growing and I love it. And the more you can support me, even with just the click of the like or whatever it is, it does help. So it's nothing for you, even if you don't subscribe, click the like button and give me a little thumbs up. Much appreciated, guys. Again, I'm here to serve. So I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys watching my videos, my streams, whatever it is. I love it, and I will talk to you guys later.